Our children are priceless, and we would do anything to protect them. So why aren't you using Go Free to protect them from the most harmful ideas? Decades in the making, Go Free is a simple yet brilliant practice designed to free us from destructive socio-political ideas. As words are the tools with which we think, Go Free promotes precise, simple, and targeted language to counteract psychological warfare. When you go free of the system's control over your word choice, you liberate your thinking. As you grow, you can empower others. And the most important thing you can do is inoculate our children against the ideas that are meant to harm them.
Are you noticing changes in our country you find troubling? Do you feel unsafe and at a loss to remedy these fundamental shifts? Have you found the book Go Free by Jason Kuna? The Go Free method provides excellent meme curatives and specific language skills to overcome the anti-white psychological warfare being waged against us across the West. Go Free, a guide to aligning with the archetype of Western kind by Jason Kuna, available on Amazon.
Welcome, Nameless One, and so exit one here. Welcome Fornol and welcome Eindelen. Thumbs up if you can hear me, please. Okay, I've got everything except for a thumbs up from Nameless One. Thank you. Welcome Indris Thoughts and Jerome. Let's start. Welcome to the Friday edition of the Shade Tree Wellbeing NWG space. We hold this space every day at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on X. We are a no white guilt community that meets to practice the concepts and lexicon developed by Jason Kiernan, Mr. No White Guilt himself. You can find him here on X as No White Guilt NWG. That's No White Guilt NWG on YouTube and elsewhere as simply No White Guilt, and on the web at nowhiteguilt.org. We discuss a wide variety of topics of interest to white people and look for ways to apply solutions. I'm Hans Skipper, your host. We run pretty casual here, but I do ask that you raise your hand if you would like to jump in. Otherwise, I will call on speakers in turn for their thoughts. If you would like to hop into the conversation, just request the mic and we'll get you set up. We only ask that you comport yourself as much as possible to the Go Free lexicon and dialectic and act like a proper lady or gentleman of the West as applicable. Let's go. So, first topic, because this is breaking news, it turns out Tyler Robinson, the assassin of Charlie Kirk, is LGBT. He is living with his male partner who is transitioning to female. So initially, when on the press release, when they read out the messages that were on the cartridges, um, my opinion was okay. So it's not trans ideology as initially reported by Stephen Crowder's source. And the reason I said that was because I didn't understand the furry lexicon. So one of those things that they um, had on the cartridge was apparently a well-known phrase in the furry community, and probably he was talking to his partner. And this also um, reminds me of the conversation we had about how you can sometimes instantly tell um, a lot about the person's worldview by the terms they use. And the example I used was if you used terms like misogynist, transphobe, most probably you are an anti-white activist, or at least deeply inside the anti-white narrative. If you use terms like Goy, Zog, Zioshil, Shabbos Goy, then most probably you are in the anti-Jewish community. And of course, if you use terms like white well-being and Western kind, white erasure, then 100% you are in the white well-being community. Now, this is one of those cases where you have to at least know something about a community before you will be able to identify these terms. And as it turns out, Stephen Crowder's informant was knowledgeable and he did correctly point it out. And now it comes out that indeed it was the case. Um, this doesn't, from our perspective, doesn't change things. It still means Tyler was anti-white. It's just he's more, I would say, broken. Um, uh, if I can put it like that, because it's not only it's more full spectrum anti-whiteism, where the normal Antifa street terrorists that are straight, they only bought into the part where whites are uniquely evil and they need to make war on the white race. But the LGBT activists go one step further, and that is they make war on their own essence, which is also why they typically do these things that ends in death, I think. So anyway, I wanted to put that up there because this is breaking news. Um, so let's just go to Ireland. Have any thoughts?
I did not see this. I'm just seeing it now that you brought it up. That's actually it's pretty shocking. I was trying to pull up the article, but I don't know. It looks like I'm having connection issues already. But uh, I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I expected this. To be honest, I'm pretty surprised. I have been seeing stuff coming out as far as his family and everything was conservative, but the biggest surprise to me is the people that are trying to make it out that Tyler was actually a conservative and he was this right wing kid that just like just killed Charlie Kirk because apparently he wasn't extreme enough. Like that theory is really kind of catching catching fire, and people are just I mean people are just delusional. But I didn't see this. I'm not familiar with Brooke Singman. Um, yeah, it's that's surprising to me.
Welcome, Julia and Anglo-Saxon NWG. Yes, so and this blows out of the water any of these narratives that the anti-whites tried. One of them was that the assassin was a groiper. Now, it was ridiculous on its face already because groypers don't use fascists in a negative way. Um, so that was obviously that was a very weak attempt. But the other attempt that I saw was that he was a conservative MAGA supporter. Um, who has some problem with Charlie Kirk. And this is another one of those incredibly stupid. I don't know what they thought. Everyone mocked that one as well. But now this is now no longer. I don't think you'll get anyone now that says this is someone who cared in any way about Western kind or Western civilization. Julia, just to catch you up, so the breaking news is that the assassin of Charlie Kirk, he is in a relationship with a transgender partner, which means he's inside the LGBT community. So all of those narratives surrounding, oh, he's a conservative, he's a white male conservative, that blows out of the water now. Do you have any comments?
I'm just not surprised. I was very dubious about the initial assessment. Uh, I think, as others said in the last space, not surprising when uh, people raised by conservative parents go to college and then come out entirely indoctrinated by the anti-white school system. So, yeah, not a surprise. I didn't trust the initial narrative. I still don't even know that I trust this, but it makes more sense than that he was an actual conservative.
Andren,
It does. I don't know. Like I mean, I know it's not really surprising, but still, like they're saying that this all this happened within a like it had to be like a 2 or 3 year window where he comes from this conservative background. He's got a good family and everything, as you talked about yesterday. His dad kind of convinced him that what he did was wrong. We don't know what that conversation was like, but it didn't seem like he tried to like put up a struggle with his dad or anything. It just seems like his dad was able to sit him down and make sense to him. And it just sounds like he was picked up relatively peacefully, considering how considering the circumstances, I mean, he killed somebody. Uh, to be honest, I mean, sometimes when this stuff happens, they either end up taking their own life, or they're ready to uh, they're ready to put up a fight with law enforcement. But it sounds like he was still, his father was still able to sit him down and like I said, make sense to him, and he was able to, that he took him in. Um, 3 years is really, I guess a lot can happen in that amount of time, but to just completely change everything, and then he's with a trans person and everything else, it's, I don't know. I want to say I'm not surprised, but still, to me, it really kind of is. Like, how much indoctrination. I guess I mean, it really is poison what they put in these kids' heads. And I guess if he's just really, I mean, your subconscious mind can be molded like clay. So, uh, just, I don't know. That's pretty wild.
Well, according to one of his school uh, students that knew him at school, he was already on Reddit um, from an early age. So I suspect he probably got into the furry community, and then it's downhill from there, I think. Um, and then when he went out of the house, suddenly um, he could make those fantasies real. And I think it's maybe not that short of a period that had, I think his parents lost control before he even went to university or college. Julia.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same as you, Hans, that uh, just because the parents were conservative doesn't mean we don't know everything that's going on in it at home in his family life. Um, Parents and children can not be very close, and just because they had a talk, we don't know what that talk was. Um, so yeah, this could have been going on for a lot longer, but I have seen really radical transformations, and this was even when I was in college. More than 20 years ago now. And so, and it was still, of course, white race, but not as badly as it is now. So, yeah, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't surprise me. It can be so bad, um, especially in certain areas. Like I grew up in New England, but then I went out to Northern California for college, and it was such a different environment. It was so much more white race, like just the population alone, and then also, of course, ideologically as a result. And so, yeah, I don't know what's. I guess he was a student at at Utah, but Utah's been pretty white erased from what I understand. Um, the Mormons I know, I don't know if he was Mormon or anything like that, but the Mormons have been going through like big changes, and Utah's been really changed over the like past decade or so.
Yes. So, as I understand, what happened was his father confronted him. He wanted to take his own life. His father phoned the preacher. The preacher spoke to him. Then the preacher contacted law enforcement, and the preacher spoke to the father and told the father um, to you know to keep him in custody for law enforcement to arrive. So I think, as I understand, that's the sequence. So I think I think the preacher talked him down actually, but it was maybe, I don't know. I mean, if surely the parents would know about his relationship with this this other person. And it's like Elon says, when your child goes into that community, it's like he's dead, because and that's why they call it dead naming if you name them the wrong name. So that possibly explains why the father would surrender his son to a future that's most probably going to end in the death penalty. Because from his father's perspective, you know, it's already that bad. So yes, I wanted to just put this on there because not that it radically changed the context of what happened there. It's still anti-whiteism. It's just a different flavor. Um, and I mean, there is something about this trans community that is definitely um, more, I would say, impulsive, more psychotic. There's definitely something going on there. Um, I mean, look at that female, biological female who killed those children at the school. Um, so yes. Anyway, but the next one that I put on the jumbotron, it's a post by Paul Zaipula. Now, of course, just recently, um, Charlie was assassinated on the 10th, and everyone, and he was assassinated 17 hours after he tweeted a photo of Irina, the murder of Irina, and with the text, America will never be the same again. And then 17 hours later, he was assassinated. So, but so this is a time, this is sort of an inflection point where small changes are going to make big differences down time. And this is why I wanted to compare it with another time in history when that happened and when things didn't turn out well for us. I'm not. This is of course the attack on the Twin Towers, and I'm not going to focus on who benefited from the attacks, because that's a complicated story, and also it's a story that can have a lot of negative consequences without a lot of benefits. So I'm going to focus on who was harmed, which is we were harmed, of course, and and how it harmed us, because we're in a similar period now where Bush's approval rating increased to 90% after that attack, which meant he could do almost anything. And we are in a similar period now. There is so much, there's even more sentiment, more Trumpism, more American patriotism than the failed attempt on Donald Trump. Um, so Trump is in the position that Bush was, and we don't know which way it's going to go. Although it does seem like they are going to make an example of these Antifa street scum. But I just want to put in context what happened that affected us down the line. So the first thing, of course, was the Homeland Security Act of 2002 was passed, and it's sad because the main function of that act was to make the border function stronger. And I mean, it's obvious that that's not the case today. And then the second one was the USA Patriot Act, which was gross overreach, no more privacy, NSA could start warrantless surveillance, not only on American citizens, they could do it on the Chancellor of Germany, with no discussion. They had these overreaching powers. So expansion of powers over government citizens as well as non-Americans. 6 days after the attack, Bush made a speech where he talked about the incredibly valuable contribution of Muslims to American culture, American society, which was just, and they had a big program to propagandize Christian churches to white erase themselves effectively. So what they call interfaith worship, which is just white erasure, because let me tell you, no Muslim mosque would do any Christian stuff. It was only the Christian churches that took in the Muslim stuff. So interfaith worship increased from 7 to 14%. And even so, and then there was a propaganda campaign to accept Muslims and not hold American Muslims to account for what other Muslims did. So much so that, but even so, 60% of Muslims complained that they were discriminated against. Can you believe that um, not only Muslims, but Arab Muslims like them came and attacked the people amongst whom you live, and then you complain that those people discriminate against you? But that was what happened. And then, and this was a stroke of genius from these anti-white Muslim organizations. They called for all Muslims to to make available their valuable skills and resources to help alleviate the sufferings of affected people. So, of course, in practice, none of that happened. But in terms of psychological warfare, it put them in the seat as the good guys. So anyone who says anything against Muslims would automatically be the villain in the anti-white narrative. And I see some of that now with this Charlie Kirk assassination. There's a lot of blacks and other non-whites who come onto Twitter, and then their eulogy and how great a time they had with Charlie Kirk is boosted. My um, my For You feed is full of these posts. So this is a similar case of psychological warfare where they don't want us um, to have a feeling that we are that white people, Western kind, is under attack. They want to defuse that sentiment because that might be the spark that that starts this chain reaction of peoplehood that they must prevent at all costs. So this is the background of what I want to discuss. But I also, before I um, carry on, I want to also just highlight this post because this wasn't the reason why Paul Zapulo made this post. Paul made this post because he wanted to reflect on the apparent impossibility that these Muslims can today be in these positions of power. And that Muslim who's running for mayor of New York, there's a lot of people who cannot understand how New York, which is known for how Jewish it is, how New York could ever come to a point where they would elect a Muslim. And of course, we know that um, a lot of those Jews are also anti-white, but also New York is very much white erased. So we don't know how the demographics break down in the voting. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of Jews vote for this candidate because he is also vehemently anti-white. But before we carry on, let's go to Julia.
Eindelen beat me, so I'll let him go first.
Good.
No, I appreciate that. I was just going to say that because I mean, you mentioned the Patriot Act of 2001, and yeah, I mean, it was yeah, that was the response to 9/11, and I mean, it seems like it was already basically on paper way before they ever passed it, which was, I mean, that wasn't lost on anybody. So many people realized that they. And it was like you said, it was the ability to it was just a huge overreach. The surveillance of everything changed. You mentioned the NSA, which absolutely, yeah, they. I remember when I was in high school, the amount of recruiting that they were doing for NSA was unreal, and I had friends that their parents were in NSA. They just it became something massive, but they uh, different different ways of accelerating charges on people that had anything to do with terrorism. They basically gave themselves the ability to label anything they wanted as terrorism. But there was a lot of propaganda at the time too. They had a couple situations where like these Sikh gas station owners and stuff were attacked, and they basically made it seem like just Indians and Sikhs and stuff all over the United States were just getting stomped out everywhere, and it wasn't true as far as I know. I'm sure there was some of that, but it was they really just. I mean, we've seen the propaganda before, but um, I'm really kind of, I mean, it's still early, but I'm kind of surprised that more stuff like that hasn't been. I guess they're more discreet with it nowadays when there's an event and they start changing laws and passing bills. They kind of they'll pass a bill and tack on a bunch of extra stuff onto the bill that you don't really recognize. They kind of pass it under the radar, but I'm really kind of waiting to see if something like that's going to happen here because this is it's just like 9/11, and you see it. I'm not going to say it's bigger than 9/11, but the amount of eyes on it, it's just with social media and the way things are nowadays, it just feels like it's as big, if not bigger. And we're just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen from there. But that's just what I wanted to say.
Yes, I have that feeling as well. It feels like we are in this inflection point where big things are going to happen, and we anti-whites have a history of using these unplanned events to slot in things that they want to happen. So um, it's and I think it's in these sensitive periods where small changes can make big differences. For instance, if we can get into Matt Walsh's mind, who has a big audience and is very much on our side now, that can that can shift the conversation drastically. Um, Julia.
Yeah, so I'm kind of optimistic, and maybe that's just because I am optimistic by nature, although not generally about human nature. But I feel like now, with social media, um, and everyone being online, and the general distrust in mainstream media, that there's a possibility that there wasn't, during 9/11, for people to become more aware as a result of Charlie Kirk's death. And so Yeah, I think it really could be something good for us. Um, just more people coming over to our side because there's so much more information out there. People know not to trust the mainstream sources, the anti-white sources, and because of just even the work that we do and getting out um, the lexicon and people like Matt Walsh using our terms. So I'm optimistic.
Yes, yes, there's a lot of opportunity. Let me welcome Stumbling, Hoyt McCoy, V, Triple A, Gladiator, Question, Only a People, and Robert. Okay, so I put another message in the Jumbotron, far left. It's of it's actually from Stephen Miller's wife, where he says, we are going to do what it takes to dismantle the organizations and the entities that are fomenting riots, that are doxing, that are trying to inspire terrorism. So Stephen Miller has been on a crusade, and it seems to me like he's going to target the Antifa segment of the anti-white superstructure. So this is very encouraging, but they are not. My concern is, it's like Jason said, if they do something that's incidentally good for white people, it means nothing because that will be wiped off the table the next time they make a decision, and no one will defend it because it was never meant to benefit us. We were just a collateral beneficiary. And the other concern is if they attack Antifa instead of what Antifa is, which is anti-white, then Antifa will just rebrand, just like they did with DEI, what they're busy doing with DEI. Andelin, what are your thoughts?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong too. Isn't DOE, that's the new version of DEI? I'm pretty sure I've seen that. But yeah, like you said, they'll just rebrand. Um, and that would probably be like the that would be small in comparison to what could happen. I'm really, because I just still don't see a scenario where conservatives and MAGA people, whatever you want to call them, the right wing, is going to be allowed to carry out the type of violence and retaliation that we've seen from groups like Antifa. I just don't see it, and of course you see it all over the social media where the people are pointing out, like, even though this has happened, as tragic as it is, conservatives aren't going to be looting and burning down stores and stuff like that. So, and it's true, but at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of you kind of mentioned earlier how some smaller channels are being elevated depending on what their message is. I'm getting recommended a lot of uh, conservatives that are kind of calling for civil war and advocating violence, where that stuff would just be completely suppressed before. And I'm not talking about on X, I'm talking about on YouTube. I've seen this. And it just, it's kind of weird to just get recommended something like that. But it, of course, this the algorithms, uh, they work a certain way for a reason. But yeah, I mean, I want to be optimistic too. I want to believe that this is a turning point for. I mean, not to. I mean, I would like to see that we're going in the in the right direction, but it's I don't know. It's different. I wouldn't be surprised too with the amount of outrage that I've seen in some of these social media posts. Like, people see that the left is even with their anti-whiteism and everything else, their people are angry at the fact that you could just blatantly lie and put this false information out there that I'm wondering myself if the right wing might be calling for some type of censorship in the future. Like we got to get control of all these people putting out false information about the shooter or whatever. I don't know, maybe not, but sometimes the conservatives they act just like liberals, only from the other side, from the right instead of the left. Uh, yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, because this with this platform, I just I can imagine that there something's going to happen where they're like, we got to get control of this free speech platform. I don't know. It's hard to say what's going to happen.
Blue Flame, Blue Flame, I'm not hearing anything. I'll go to Julia, and then after that, we'll try again.
So one of my concerns with Stephen Miller is that, and a lot on the right, is that they might use this opportunity to uh, or talk about the rise of anti-Semitism, pivot towards that instead of talking about anti-whiteism, because they're not going to talk about anti-whiteism. Um, so yeah, I could see it being that type of a censorship thing where they say, "Oh, you're not allowed to boycott Israel. Um, you're not allowed to um, support Palestine. You're not allowed to speak ill of Israel, etc." So, yeah, that would be my concern with the sort of mainstream conservative neocons.
I'm glad you reminded me, because one of the alternate theories that was out there and still is that this was a Mossad operation. Now, if it was a Mossad operation, um, the assassin would have some link with Palestine, I feel, or with Iran. That's how you would know that it was a Mossad operation. But there's no such link. So Stephen Miller is not going to be able to pivot this this energy towards protecting Israel, because there's nothing anti-Zionist about this assassin and what he did. It was 100% against Western norms, against Western civilization, Western kind. Um, this was an attack on our people, and there isn't even the most tenuous link. And let's hope it stays like that, because otherwise, it's going to. You're right. Then the whole thing will pivot towards let's protect our next, our eternal best friend, Julia.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I said this is because I saw a tweet, and I think it was maybe retweeted by Elon. It was someone big who retweeted it, and it was someone talking about how Charlie Kirk was one of Israel's biggest allies. So, and he was for a long time. So I don't know. There could be something there.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that at the moment, unless this partner of the assassin turns out to be some Palestinian, Palestinian trans male. It happens, but not often. Blue flame. Let's try again.
Hey, is it working now?
Yes.
Ah, perfect. That's actually interesting that you guys brought this topic up because I was just looking into that a bit earlier. I mean, just going over the people that I know that like to talk about this stuff or keep an eye on it. Um, it seems to be that a certain desert nation that is, yeah, that is labeled as supposedly friendly to the West. people make of that what they will. That it apparently over there is some sort of internal conflict going on, so that they actually have like the while this whole nonsense is going on with another desert faction of anti-whites. We're just gonna refer it to that for now because I don't know what the best way to do it is anymore. Yeah, so while this conflict between these two factions is happening over there over a plot of land, within one of these factions is an internal conflict going on as well. So there's quite a bit of pressure going on over there, and the they're going to keep doing what has always worked for them, which is gaslighting the West into helping them, right? One way or the other. With that said, does that have anything to do with what occurred with Mr. Kirk? I think, I can't make a definitive decision on that, but it is always worth bearing in mind that there are more, anti-white factions, even, let's say even further east, and that is always worth bearing about as well, and I suppose in the far south too. So yeah, it's quite a mess, and apparently since today or yesterday, the Russian war machine has also set up a missile on the Polish border. So something is going on there as well. And I guess we cannot exclude that the anti-whites who are running Europe might also have a vested interest in inflicting chaos, predominantly right now chaos in the US. And the chaos is of course meant to distract the current ruling order, if you will, from accomplishing what it wants to accomplish, right? I hope I'm not being too vague. I know it may sound like that. I just try to avoid using specific names and what have you. Yeah. So it's a big mishmash of all these factions and sub factions within factions who are, for whatever reasons, like they're really coming out teeth bared. And in and of itself, this isn't abnormal throughout supposed peace times or whatever. Is this intermingling of factions is a constant. You can't get away from it. For whatever reason, religious zealots, um, political factions, economic groups who want this, that, and the other, and there's a lot of overlap between all of them. It is a mess that you can't ever really get a permanent hold of, because by the time you do, so many changes occur that you're again next to you're again having to deal with the next thing. So as far as also the concern for conflict, I mean, guys, the conflict is already here. It has been here since forever. We have been born into it, and it might have been. You could technically say that, oh well, yeah, okay, but like 10 years, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you could still go out and you didn't need to worry about some random psycho in the street or whatever. Yes, that is true, but that doesn't take away that the conflict wasn't there. It definitely was. I mean, and we understand this because anti-whiteism has always been around. We might actually be the first ones to actually cut through all the ideological, religious, and economic, political nonsense, and come down to the chase. And that is also, I guess that's where we are rather unique. I would think. Because we also don't need to hide it behind anything else. We are open, we are direct about that, and it is a respectable message. So yeah, I guess the point where I want to go to in this is that, where do we see ourselves in this whole mishmash, in this soup, this spaghetti, this there's a palette of paint falling on the floor. I think that is predominantly where our main focus should go. And are there immediate dangers for, let's say Jason on occasion goes to spaces to places to talk, right? Do we need to be worried about that? Is this something we need to take in consideration? For those of us uh, who go advocate in public areas, I guess we already knew about, let's say some gang of anti-whites. Yes, that sort of danger we understood. But are there groups who want to include, our advocacy or what have you in their chaos, to our advantage or to our disadvantage, even, if you will, right? It doesn't always need to be a bad thing either. um I think in that regard it's good that we get wary about this, and maybe we should do that a bit more. uh I think it is the serious thing to do if you actually want to achieve something. If we feel confident enough that we can also muscle ourselves a little bit on the scene, which I believe with with what we see now, between let's just say the left and the right for now in the US, um, a certain vacuum opening up. No, are we willing? Are we ready to get in there and fill in that vacuum as far as we can on a sort of more grand scale degree? I don't know. I guess that's something that everyone here has to maybe mull on a bit first. Is there something else I want to add to that? And I know I'm being vague and what have you, but there is no point in being precise either, I would say. Just a general picture, I think, is the best to have in mind right now. And what do we need to be wary of? Which it would be, what could be to our advantage or disadvantage to spread the message that we do. Um, And yeah, aside from that, I guess like the real physical threats, wherever they come from, uh, again, it's good to have a general awareness about that too. But at the same time, we as far as we are concerned, we're still at a stage where it's better just to steer out of harm's way altogether if possible. And as with Mr. Kirk, I mean, he was a very high profile individual in society. I think that's probably one of the reasons why he was chosen as a somewhat of a message. And I have been hearing more about what was done to him, that there might be have been tampering with the piece of armor that he was given. So yeah, there is some, again, there is a lot on all sides going on. It's not that, yeah, how shall one put it, those who might be your friends today might well be at your, sharpening a knife for your back anyways, in the more grander scheme of society. So that's also something that seems to be the reality right now. um, and as far as the fear and the conflict goes, I suppose, yeah, you know what? I know I'm ranting a little bit, but I guess I want to share this with you guys. And this is totally personal. This is not something that you need to answer me to or what have you. Is that it may well be that there's going to be a lot of violence, maybe even straight up military conflict in the areas where we're going to live. And that conflict can be through, I suppose, troop movements or what have you. But with such movements comes a lot of, let's say, behind the curtain types of operatives, I suppose, who pluck people away, right? And I guess you need to. I think it would be helpful um, for everyone here in general. You know, just what's the best way to put it? I'm trying to find the right words here. I guess it has predominantly to do with, are you prepared to face your own mortality in this? And I'm not saying that to scare anyone or uh, to demoralize or what have you, but are you prepared to go all the way in regards to, you know, standing up for our people? You know, are you willing to do the heroic thing? Uh, and this is again, it is for each of us individually to make that hard call, to make that decision, right? Because we may come to a stage where there's no walking back on this. You know, you the internet will at least always remember. And while I'm not, it's not about either that like the whole world is going to come at us and, you know, what are we going to do? It's not like that either. But the possibility that this could happen, that some psycho anti-white, and not just a gang member, like someone with a with a patch or whatever it's going to be, some professional, may be pointed in any of us of ours direction. Are you willing to face that? When the shooting happens in your street or whatever it's going to be, uh, are you willing to keep going in spite of that this is a possibility? Uh, and if the answer for yourself, you have to ask this to yourself and you answer it to yourself, and nobody else needs to necessarily know, because what is the point, anyways? If the answer is yes, then keep going. If the answer is no, then, well, I would I would find it regrettable for those who would say no, but I would understand. Um, on the other side of that is also is that if your answer is no now anyways, for whomever it might be, then, well, it was never going to work out in the long run anyways. So yeah, then it will be more of a matter of you did the right thing for as far as you wanted to go, fine, right? Um, yeah. And I say this, guys, because I've had people come to me with these questions, like genuinely concerned, and I pose this to them. It's like, no, we are doing it for our people. Uh, we know we have changed many lives for the better through the work we've done. We have steered society from, some of you were talking about it already. There are high profile people now who know of our message, who are starting to carry it with them. Very good. All excellent stuff. And through these people, it spreads all the further. But the root, of course, is still our work in that sense, our investment. Um, yeah, and the yeah, I'm struggling a little bit. I apologize for for taking so long about it, because I see that at least someone else wants to speak. Um, yeah, I guess it's I guess that is the most important point. You know what? I'm just gonna leave it here with, ask yourself if you want to go all the way. If you do, you want to go as far as Mr. Kirk, if that what is your fated ahead of us. And of course we're going to do our best, but that doesn't need to happen. That we all come, that we do have a victory with full numbers. That is always the best kind. Um, but yeah, still ask yourself that, and that is I think the most important thing to do right now, because there may well be a lot more chaos in the coming. There are signs from political figures who they do not say it directly, but if you can catch a hint, then it does seem to be that they are slowly trying to prepare people for some really mass scale uh, nonsense. And well, yeah, if when that kicks off and society turns into something of a wasp's nest, as far as a comparison, then are you prepared to face the wasp? And yeah, it's probably not the most joyous message that I bring here for you guys, and it's up to you. I personally won't hold it against anyone, regardless what they choose to do. I will say though, I will always be around, no doubt about that. All right, I'll leave others to talk now because I took up so much time.
Okay, the first thing I would say is that if it comes to physical violence where someone points a gun at you and you are alone, then we have failed, because the whole point of Go Free is to become a people before we have cannibal armies roaming the streets, because then it's over for the white race. Then, as far as courage, for psychological courage to stand your ground in conversations, I would say that the Go Free practice lowers the threshold for courage to the absolute minimum, because of the fact that we center the well-being of white people. In other words, we have an inherently moral position. And then the other thing is, it's true what you say. Human dynamism is complex. We don't know all the players, everything that is going on now. You can be sure that there are billionaires who are trying to position things and looking at what uh, advantage they can get in the situation we are in now. But this is also another demonstration where things become a lot simpler when you focus on who is harmed instead of who benefits, because who benefits is all over the place, but who is harmed is always white people. And this is what we want to prevent. We want to leverage this inflection point in history to our benefit. And for the new people, I just want to just put the context why I put the 9/11 post in the Jumbotron, because that was another inflection point, and it didn't go well for the white race after that. Um, the Patriot Act is, NATO got involved, pulled all the European countries into the conflict in Afghanistan. This is part of the pretext that they used to white erase Europe and America, is because, oh, look at all these poor Afghanis who rape boys. We need to import them into our quiet towns where they can leer at our children. Um, so we were massively harmed. The Homeland Security Act that was supposed to increase border security, it was just another tool for tyrannical control, which they opened to allow the white erasure of America. So no benefit for white people. All were to the detriment of the well-being of white people. Now today we are in a similar situation where Trump has the kind of approval that Bush had. Um, he can do a lot of stuff, and we can do a lot of stuff, not because we are powerful, but if we can put our words in the mouths of people like Matt Walsh, who does care about white people, even though he doesn't necessarily will be explicit about it, given who his employer is. But we have opportunities, and this is part of the discussion. So just once again, I think it greatly simplifies it if you if you think in terms of who is harmed instead of who benefits, because who benefits, there's just too complex. There are too many players. But the one who's always harmed is white people, and this is what we want to prevent. Julia, and then after that, Biospirit. Let's go to Julia.
Well, I was just going to answer Blue Flame by saying that, I mean, it is an existential threat that we face. And so whether it's either we speak out or and risk getting killed, or we don't speak out and we still get killed by a random anti-white criminal. So there isn't a choice, like you said. We have to speak out.
Biospirit.
Um, yeah, Julia just made a very good point. Doesn't matter whether you think that you don't want to participate. Anti-whiteism is coming for every single one of us. So you may as well stand up and advocate now and put an end to it rather than letting things get worse. The other thing I wanted to mention is that Jason set up Go Free as a decentralized entity, so that there is no figurehead, there is no other than Jason as the creator, but it is meant to continue on whether Jason is here or not, and each and every one of us is as vital and as important as any other part of the whole. So it makes it, it was intentionally made this way so that no one is no one individual is a target. And so if you think of it in that way, I hope that gives people some kind of comfort. I will also say that we have seen already a concerted, conscientious attack that happened on the Foundation for White Wellbeing, where they went after our former president. And that was probably foolhardy, because when we set that up, we didn't think that there would be any repercussions, which was silly. So we went with full names and addresses and locations and stuff, and we should have been more aware of what we were doing when we set that up. So the only thing that happened with that was they tried to get him fired and have made things quite miserable for him economically, but anything else seems to have dissipated. So anyway, I just wanted to mention those brief elements about that, and don't get too worried that the hordes of anti-whites are necessarily coming for each and every one of us. They are, in that they are doing what they are doing. They are promoting anti-whiteism. That is affecting each and every one of us. But are they coming after each and every one of us as an individual? I don't see that. So I'll pass it back. Thanks.
I can just add that I'm in South Africa, and there's a lot of these psychotic farm murderers who are on Twitter. And what I do is I block them before it escalates to death threats. And I think that's a de-escalation tactic that is useful. Andelin.
Yeah, so some great points, and I kind of I definitely agree with the idea of once we hit anything like a civil war, that's we failed at that point. But in the United States, we're so divided, even as white people. We're the yeah, that would be the worst case scenario, and it wouldn't look like a civil war as a lot of people would imagine it. It would just be huge pockets of civil unrest, and we would just because we're so divided as a people and can't really agree on anything, that would just be terrible. I think even some conservatives have this idea of like a bunch of cowboys hopping in a F-150 and just like taking shit over, and I don't see it happening. It would just be chaos, and even people in the past that have talked about things like violent balkanization and stuff like that. They I don't know. They don't advocate for it either. They just say that if things keep going in the direction that they're going, then that's what it would be. It wouldn't be a civil war, just civil unrest nationwide. But yeah, I wouldn't want to see that. I think really just we could just like double our efforts as far as the go free method. I know that kind of sounds simple, but really this is still I've seen a lot of good. I've seen a lot of I mean with the Charlie Kirk memes that have been put together where he those quotes that he had that's really bordering along the lines of our lexicon and things that we say. I think those are doing really well. I think pushing our message more, and I mean, always be prepared to defend yourself in a self defense situation. But as far as and I know you're not saying that you're hoping for it or anything or advocating for civil war. Just yeah, I don't see it happening.
Yes, I mean, not from there is no white positive. Um, how do you put it? Oppositional pole. There is no white positive oppositional pole. We have hardcore anti-white on the one side, and we have anti-white light on the other side. Um, so there's no flag or banner that white people can flock to. Both are anti-white. So yes, there isn't going to be any civil war. If something happens now, whites are just going to be victimized because there's no leader who's going to care about us. He's going to just want to show how he's not um, how he's inside the anti-white morality. And a great example of that was this march in the UK today, where Tommy Robinson, at great cost, hired these non-white Maoris. He flew them in, and they were all paid to do their silly little haka. Um, when I mean, the UK has such deep culture to such an inheritance to do fantastic things, and they get these primitive peoples who achieve almost nothing. You can't even see their achievements if you plot them next to Western civilization. They're not even on the graph. You have to use a logarithmic scale to even see what they did. Because when we met them, they didn't even have history. All their history was written by white men. Now they come to the UK and they do their little silly haka. And you know what the haka told the white people who met them? It told them, well, now it's time to free the weapons because these people want to kill us. So it didn't go well for them the last time they did that. But now everyone is in awe. And it's because they are non white. It's because anything that's not white is better. So it's more white erasure, uh, not necessarily white erasure of the people, but this is white erasure of our culture. We have, I mean, our cultural inheritance is unparalleled. It's um, and it's always frustrating when we have anything where a lot of white people come together. They will make sure. The last time, and I promise I'll stop ranting soon. But the last time that I was at an event in South Africa where there was a lot of white people, guess what culture they they promoted? And it's 100% white people. Bongo drums, bongo drums. We had to look at these people hopping around like four-legged beasts with their bongo drums. It was such a humiliation. It was a humiliation to sit there in a crowd of at least 1,000, let's say, high functioning professional white people, and watch these creatures prance around. Um, yeah, it's so frustrating. But I mean, there was some good in the event as well. And I think probably Eva, I didn't listen to her speech, but she's typically um, at least mentions white people, while that Tommy character never does that. He's anti-Muslim. He's not pro-white. He's anti-Muslim and pro-Zionist. He's never pro-white. But anyway, let's go to Ireland.
Well, Hans, I think I speak for everybody. Nobody wants you to stop ranting, especially in this situation. And I agree. When I start seeing these guys, it happens so often now. This haka thing. Every time they start making that face and getting in that stance, my eyes just start rolling in the back of my head. It's so cringe. I'm so sick of seeing that shit. But I watched a little bit of the march, and I saw like there's content creators that have nothing to do with politics that I've never even heard them speak on anything political, and they just popped up at the march live stream. And one guy in particular, his name is Matt Legg, and he's never spoken on politics. He speaks on uh like bare knuckle boxing, the history of bare knuckle boxing and stuff in the UK. Um, and he just popped up with a live stream and he was marching. I was like, oh, that was awesome. So there is some good coming out of this. I know not everybody agrees with Tommy Robinson, but I think it seems like it's definitely just a lot more than just his message. People, there's a shift going on, um, but also, like you said, and I see it over here too. It just sucks that people just like of all things to try to turn to as far as like CKO said, it's like that people are holding up this Haka thing as like the peak representation of masculinity, and it's complete bullshit. But I see people get confused over here too. I keep seeing these memes. People are popping up for Charlie Kirk. Now instead of just Martin Luther King, they have Malcolm X on there, and the meme is all about they got killed because they were telling the truth. It's like people are really confused, and I mean it's cringe, to be honest.
Especially after that member of parliament, that woman with the crazy eyes, especially after she did her little thing. Julia.
So I haven't seen the Haka, but it sounds like I'm not missing out. So I'll think. I'm glad to have my brain clean of that. But at this point, I am just so sick of the pushing of other cultures. It just seems like it's more of this tokenism. This like, oh, we have to promote this, based non-white. This um, based non-white dance, whatever, based non-white person promoting something. It can never be a white man saying something based. And I just have such a low tolerance for it at this point that I won't even like comments from non-whites anymore, because I'm just like, no, I want like white men only. Like I'm just done. I'm done with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there was so many posts today that flew by that were these non-whites who had photos where they were next to Charlie Kirk, and they were eulogizing and how, and usually it's some anti-white thing that they got Charlie Kirk to agree on. And then I started commenting on under that, and I comments like um Mm, gee, now I can't see. What angle did I take now? Let me remember. I think what I tried to pivot it to is I would say something like, um, okay, but we need to. The problem is this anti-white monster. We need to stop these anti-whites. Just bring it back to what's the core issue here. This murderer, he was making war on Western kind, on our norms, on our people. He was making war against himself. Um, yes, but this is very. This is something to think about. You gave me an idea now, because there is something there is something um, about this propensity of white people who want to, whenever there's something that they feel strongly about, they want to get a non-white to go and agree with him. um, there's a whole family of YouTube videos, reaction videos, where these non-whites who react to white things, they get millions of views because white people, they want to feel validated. Um, so if we can, invent a creative meme curative that taps into pathetic, that pathetic need to be validated, that will just nuke this thing out of the water, because no one wants to be pathetic. I didn't pay attention. My eyes were roaming the horizon. So sorry, Ardent Party and Blue Flame, but I'm going to select Ardent Party and then Blue Flame.
Okay, thank you. So what I wanted to say was talking about the haka, and I've put the same comment that I'm about to say in the YouTube chat as well. The haka is a symbol of masculinity, but it's Polynesian masculinity. It does not match our biospirit. I've said before that if Tommy wanted to represent European masculinity, he would get guys from the Buhurt community, the guys who do things like the European martial art melees and things like that, and he'd get them to wear their armor and march with him. What Tommy has done here, in my opinion, is to caricaturize the Maori for entertainment purposes. From what I understand, it costs something like £30,000 to bring them over. That's not importing a symbol of masculinity. That's hiring a circus act, in my opinion. And part of the reason this appeals to young European men, it's the same reason that Andrew Tate appeals to them. They don't have a better example to follow, and it doesn't, that matches their biospirit, but it does speak to them as men.
Blue Flame.
Yeah, actually, I was about to speak to that as well, and I like it's so ridiculous. It's overdone at this point. This Hakan stuff, you see it everywhere these days. I don't even know why. It's not even that impressive if you ask me. It's like if you see that on a battlefield, I think I would start laughing, just laughing like till my head fell off. But on a yeah, to direct it towards us, I mean, such like let's say even the United Kingdom in general. So let's say we can include Scotland, Ireland, Wales, and England. This whole bunch. Can stuff them all together. If you want to do, if you want to make a parade, if you want to make a show of it, it's like where are like the lines of bagpipe players? Just blaring so hard that you can hear them from across the channel or across the ocean for all I care, right? That's what should happen. Let some bagpipes go off until the windows burst. Men dressed in, I mean, like centuries of styles. Like the longbowmen from medieval days, or the you know, something that is maybe a bit less known in general is like that the Irish in their kilts or the Scots in theirs. Uh, these Tudor style clothing. What else can you have? So yeah, maybe men with long bows and their whatever they shoot with the long bows is like these, I don't know, plastic arrows or whatever with flags on them or whatever it's going to be. Like if you want to make a spectacle, well, there you go. That's something that's going to tug a few heartstrings. I would say that's going to get a bit of that old fire back in people's hearts. That's what I would think. Um, and I don't think you would need to come with that much money either. If you go to the right people, you can simply, maybe pay for their gas if they travel across half the country or whatever. I think that is what most of them would want. Maybe something to eat, and the rest would play itself out. Um, have people, like have and as far as the little bit of music that was played or what have you, there should be hundreds, if not thousands, of Irish people doing a river dance, or whatever other folklore dance or folk dances are around. That's what should happen. Show a bit of our culture. There's plenty to pick from. It's ridiculous how much you can pick from. And yeah, I definitely like I definitely share in the affront that I detected in what CKO was writing, is that it's absolutely despicable, the choice that was made. And oh, you know what? But, as far as masculinity goes, how about some Scottish game, like Highland games? There you go. Let's do a few Highland games while we're at it. Why not? Something for the children to look up to. Lift a few tree trunks up for fun. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, and that's all just on the top of my head, and that might even be a bit stereotypical to all bring up. But I mean, someone from the place itself, those who have grown up there, you're honestly going to tell me that they can't come up with like 50 more things, far more obscure, or whatever it's going to be. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I just wanted to toss that in there, because simply the idea of symbol is supposed to be like, like I saw some argument about it. It's like they're from the Commonwealth, hence, like that is absolute nonsense. Uh, that is just more white guilt from a right wing perspective, and that's all it really is. But anyways, others want to speak, so I'll leave it here.
Thanks, Blue Flame. I think Julia's next.
Yeah, so with regards to what could have been done instead, it just made me think of the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army and how that was, in my opinion, rather underwhelming. And so I feel like they will never, with anti whiteism so deeply rooted on our governments, I don't think they will let any male, certainly white male, display of masculinity. Um, that is truly inspiring. They just can't allow that, because it will be instantly, if instead of the men at the 250th anniversary of the army, kind of casually walking, if they had been marching in like tight straight lines, it would have been instantly seen as like a Nazi thing. So I just think, even though it would have been very different to have to do the log tossing or the bagpipes, it would have still been too close to they would have been called Nazis. It's just they're not going to allow it. And then to answer Hans' question about what can we do about these people who seek validation from non-whites, and I wonder if maybe we can I do more about calling them out in the way that men now in the manosphere call out simps for how destructive they are to society. If maybe we can just kind of take that type of an angle where we call them out for essentially being simps for non-whites, something like that.
I love that. How about calling it brown knighting? By spirit.
Yeah, I was thinking, listening to Blue Flame and Ardent Party, how many examples that they were coming up with of what could have been done. And so that clearly tells us that the choices were made for a purpose, and that purpose was more white erasure and more anti-whiteism. That uh, guy, Robinson, he's always been this way. He's always been a civnat. It's always about everybody's the same. No one is different. He doesn't. He must know that that everybody's different, but he is obviously getting paid by someone to keep promoting the anti-white narrative, and it's disgusting. And that's all we ever get is more of the same, more of the anti-white narrative, which results in more anti-whiteism, which results in more white erasure. So I don't find it unusual. It's disgusting, yes. I find it strange sometimes that there are so many people that still follow Robinson, but he gets the promotion on social media that nobody else does, because there are anti-whites who promote him and who fund him, and so he gets the limelight, and the rest of us don't. So there we are.
So yes, interesting that Tyler Robinson and Tommy Robinson sounds similar. It reminds me, I wanted to ask, because I don't know American names, but is Tyler, is that a female name and a male name, by spirit?
No, it's not. It's I've never heard it used as a female name. It's always been a male name. It comes from a last name. So that's very common in America, is to use the mother's maiden name as either a middle name or a first name. And that that's been going on for hundreds of years here.
Okay, thanks. Anderen.
To be honest, I kind of really like the idea of brown knighting. Maybe have to tweak that a little bit. But when Julia had mentioned something, I was thinking something along the lines of, like, I mean, it's been mentioned a couple times. Like the shaming aspect has to happen. That's one of the most effective things that we can do. But her comparing it to the same idea as simping, is a really good idea. And when she said that, I started thinking in something along the lines of non-white culture simping, but that doesn't sound right. First of all, it doesn't have a good ring to it, but then it implies too much about uh, because so many times they'll take our culture and then just in place of a white man or woman, they'll have a non-white. And I don't want to imply that our culture has anything to do with them because, yeah, there it's already being erased. So that would be lost on people. But I think that's a really good idea. Something along the lines of brown knighting might be something we could start trying to work with because the shame is effective, but I had something else too. I can't think of it right now.
Welcome, Dallas, um, and welcome, Joe and Michelle. I want the okay. And there's another one. When creatively. Okay. Um. Okay. Andlin, you wanted to just quickly respond again. I see your hand is up again.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just going to say real quick about Tommy Robinson. One thing that always gets him more attention is that every time he fades out a little bit, he'll get into a fight with a uh, radical Islam, anti-white, or he'll get into a scrap with somebody, and his attention just from 0 to 100, just like that. So he's appealing to masculinity. He's just not doing it on behalf of white people. So I just wanted to make that observation because it just proves the effectiveness of being masculine and just like the fact that he goes out there and he knocks somebody out and then the next day he's getting millions of views again is something to take note of.
Absolutely, and also these short spells in prison um, really hits, hits that nail into the door that he's going to bat for his people. But I'm I don't want to say it's arranged, but his prison spells are quite short if you consider that they will put someone away for 2 years for just looking or tweeting tweeting something and then deleting it. Then sorry, someone saw that, so that's it for the next 2 years for you. Sorry for you. But Tommy, he gets into these situations where you think, oh boy, I wouldn't want to be where he is now and be a straight white male. But then he's like a fish. He gets out of it somewhere. So yes, he either has an amazing guardian angel or there's other type of guardianship happening. Blue flame.
Yeah, I was about to speak to that as well, but yeah, I guess the both of you sort of covered that. How is it that someone gets jailed for saying they want to eat bacon or something like that? Uh, but knocks someone out and it's like, okay, a little bit of jail and that's it, back out. Yeah, it's totally. Yeah, I mean, yeah, what have you? But it's pretty obvious that something is definitely messed up going on there. Um, but I was thinking about another term. How about culture cocking? Doesn't that work? It's just a suggestion, but it has a bit of a roll of the tongue. Culture cocking. I mean, what is a conservative at the end of the day? That's predominantly what it is. Is just this sort of obedient attitude towards others because they're non-white, and that's it. I mean, that speaks of zero self-respect. It is pathetic. It is, yeah. what else can one call that? If you, and again, if nobody, like if somebody doesn't respect him or herself, then why would someone else? And you can, I think that is definitely worth applying to these types of people. It's like you don't do anything unless some non-white, gives you the nod. Well, I guess then you don't have any self-respect, so I don't need to respect you either. You may want to change it at some point. Good on you, but until then, bye bye. That should be the general response of anyone with half a brain. But yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, culture cooking might be worth trying out.
Yes, that's +1 for because cucking is pathetic, and +1 for alliteration. But I'd like it something more how can I put it? More despicable. It's really because yeah, my face just pulls skew when I see that kind of stuff. And such incredible revulsion that I have when these people, when given that we have such a rich cultural inheritance, that we would even reach to the reach to that dusty cupboard for that little beat up old shoe that it's so stinky that you can't even put it on your sock. You put your socks out to not ruin them permanently, and then you pull that shoe on because it's not made by your people. It's made by someone else. It is utterly pathetic, and I want that emotion. That no. So anyway, Julia.
I love brown knighting, but culture cooking is also great. But thinking about uh, your description, maybe we could use adapt brown nosing, which has a very nasty connotation. If you understand the the etymology, um, I mean, it kind of it is brown nosing. So I don't know, maybe that. I figure we should try them all and just see what kind of responses we get.
Oh, Julia, that's nasty. That's really nasty. But it's definitely top of the list. Okay, so let's go to. I put this. It's far left of the jumbotron. Matt Walsh made this post. I cannot unite with the left because they want me dead. They will spit on my grave when I die and laugh in the faces of my wife and children. There can be no unity with such people. But I will unite with anyone on the right. I hereby discard any grudge or personal feud I may have had with anyone on my side. Maybe we will pick up these arguments sometime in the future. Now we have to stand together. So this was his post. Now, immediately, of course, this sounds very good because we all identify as on the right, but we have a slightly different position, which gets people what in the white sympathetic sphere very upset. And this is our position is not because we don't recognize the right as a position. We recognize whether you harm white well-being or whether you help white well-being. And in that, on that metric, there are some of those who identify as right, who we consider harmful, and this is where this big I would say, where a lot of the negative attention from the white sympathetic sphere comes from. They have this idea that let's pull together, but what we see, what they don't see, is that some of the people who think, or either think they are contributing, or who know they're not contributing, but they are faking concern for white well-being, that their methods are counterproductive. It's not that they are neutral, it's that they are actually harmful. And this is why um, that's the sticking point, really. And it's I mean, this is not hard to understand why, but we have this fundamental, I would say, schism in the white sympathetic sphere, where we are on one side and there's a limited amount of communities that we can work with. The other ones we see as harmful, and that's that. So while this is a good thing that Matt Wells is saying, because it includes our community, it also means we are going to have incompatible forces in a, let's say, a coalition that will be unresolved. But the other thing that bothers me is, we know that Matt Walls had a conversation with his boss. We know he had a conversation because his language, on one day, his language changed and he no longer used the terms anti-white or anti-whiteism. And so this is very ominous, because in another post, he actually defended Nick Fuentes. So here's my question. First of all, he's not changing his language, which means Ben Shapiro is still holding his hand on him. On the other hand, he's pandering to the anti-Jewish segment. So this means that Ben Shapiro, this is okay with that, which is something that we actually expect. But I didn't expect it to be this explicit, although it's not really explicit, because I think probably most people will think Matt Walsh is acting heretical to his his employer's principles. But we know different, because if he really was heretical, he would also use our terms, which is not. So it seems like he is under direction of Ben Shapiro. Blue Flame.
Yeah, it's a bit to the earlier point still. How about permission prostitute? You you can even add Julia's brown nosing in front of that one. It's just just something I was thinking about. Like brown nosing permission prostitute.
Let's have some fun, yes. I can't wait to try them out. We must just keep book of them. Okay, Andelin.
Well, I agree. Shame is an element that we definitely need to incorporate more in our strategies. But as far as this post goes from Matt Walsh, and you brought up a good point as far as because I'd almost forgot that time when there was a clear it was clearly something was said between him and his managers about him using the term anti-white because he had used it, and then out of nowhere it's just like never again. But it's weird the dynamics between some of these people that you had just mentioned, there's a change, especially with the tragedy, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Fuentes, he had to. I mean, of course, he's not calling for violence, but we know in the past, like I said before, he's made an audience out of Spurgs, and I've just seen like I don't know if you saw it yourself. Mark Dice put a video out where he was basically saying like they're trying to blame Fuentes for his assassination, and it goes along with the narrative that which we know is false now, that Tyler was some type of conservative that killed Charlie Kirk because he wasn't extreme enough. We know that's blatantly false, but that's what they were running with, and they were blaming Fuentes and his radical Spurg audience that for that. It's just a very strange what's going on, and for me, I worry because lately too, Jason's been mentioning more so than ever about how we have to make clearly separate from these people. And I mean, I know we agree with that because while on the surface it seems like there might be some potential unity, at the same time, well, we don't want the white well-being community swept away in whatever type of backlash might come to these people, because it's just the fact that all of a sudden people that used to be radically opposed. I know these are different circumstances with Charlie Kirk's assassination, but I mean, to not recognize that the danger that you're putting yourself in by aligning with people that have said such radical things is, I mean, that, and they just don't work. Like that's one thing with us is we we agree that the problem is anti-whiteism, and we call them out as anti-white because uh, they all share a similar victim, which is white people. I mean, it doesn't get much easier than that. But I don't know. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've definitely seen it over the last couple of days.
I see we have a new listener, Eric. I'm going to give you the mic. I um, just want to say that we don't slander any other group, so please don't use any slurs. We focus on the well-being of white people here. So let me give you the mic. Okay, Eric, do you have any thoughts? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, Eric. I'm going to give you a few moments to check what your issue is. I'm not hearing anything, but let me just say, I shared another another post, Steve Bannon. So Steve Bannon, another account, Joel Webben, said, "You killed Charlie, now you get Nick. Enjoy." And then Steve Bannon said, "The law of unintended consequences." So in other words, he's gaslighting, or he's putting attention on the fact that you wanted to kill Charlie, now you're getting the more extreme version of Charlie. Now, Steve Bannon, in my humble opinion, is an anti-white pig, a disgusting anti-white pig. But he's weighing in now, and Nick Fuentes has very unsympathetic things to say about him. And now suddenly Bannon is giving him attention. So this is another one of those things that are happening now, where everything seems to go Nicky's way. The other post that I put in is Matt Walsh, who is just commenting on the fact that the left is getting up to pin Nick Fuentes, and then he defended him, which I don't have a problem with, because obviously the killer wasn't a groyper. Simply for the fact that for groypers, calling someone a fascist is not a negative thing. That's a positive thing. So you wouldn't put that on a bullet, on a cartridge. But why would I mean this? My hypothesis is that Matt Walsh is still under instruction of Ben Shapiro, because otherwise he would use white positive terms, like he would call out anti-whiteism in, for instance, the attack on Irina, and he didn't do that. So so clearly he's still under his instruction. So this naming Nick Fuentes, which Ben Shapiro, if you remember in the past, he studiously ignored and he avoided naming Nick. But now here, Matt Walsh is naming the man that wasn't to be named. So this is very interesting to me. Andelan.
I'm not sure if it's confirmed, but I did hear the other day, almost uh, I think it was the day after he was assassinated, that Ben Shapiro is supposed to be taking up the position that Charlie Kirk had as far as doing these college tours and holding these open debates. So I'm not exactly sure if that's like set in stone, but it's definitely something that they had mentioned. So it is weird timing. I mean, like I said, on the surface, it looks like there's some unity happening, but it's hard not to be skeptical after all these years.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Eric.
Yeah, thank you for letting me contribute to the discussion. I just wanted to say I think that we should zoom out, from a white nationalist perspective, that we should look at everything that's going on. Like, I live in a big urban city. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and like I see what's going on, and I see how people are openly using drugs in public. Violence is common. People are peeing right in front of you. Like, this is unsustainable, and people are seeing it. And there is a social pressure that keeps people in corporate America and in government and these are the people who work in big cities, that is keeping them from seeing what's going on. But that's starting to be eroded now. Like, that's being eroded. Like, these people got on LinkedIn, full blast, fire hose, unstoppable, and said, oh, yeah, celebrate Charlie Kirk's death, because they're used to cultural hegemony and they believe that everybody thinks how they think. And they're seeing this, and then all of a sudden they're getting fired and they're feeling the heat. And so now they're backtracking and they're saying the shooter is a groyper, because they don't want to own that. And they know that in the midterm elections, there's close districts in congressional elections, and people are going to run clips of Ilhan Omar smirking at his death, and they're losing the battle. Like, so to zoom out, like, what are the objective solutions? How do we move forward? Like, well, there's a couple of options. There's succession, where red states go their own way and we develop some kind of defense federation with the blue states, and we just kind of like ally with them, and like, so we prevent the Russians or the Chinese from doing anything to us, but we go our separate ways. Or there's returning to land covenants and having our own communities where we don't allow other people, non-whites, to come in. Like where I live, we have the Met Council that like forces communities in the 7-county metro to have not single family zoning. So you can't just say we're only allowing big lots for single houses. That you have to allow apartments, and that allows Somalis and Mexicans and every other person to come into your community. So people are moving to exurbs, and people are trying to flee, and people are trying to do whatever they can to get away from this, but it's really not working because the government's just forcing affordable housing. So we have to look at those solutions. Like either it's going to be like a federation and separating states, or it's going to be separating communities. What does everyone else here think of that?
Thank you, Eric. Yes, there's a lot of. I can just quickly touch on a couple of things. The first thing I would like to say is that in this community we don't speak about secession because even though Trump is in power at the moment, um, he may we don't know what's happening next term, and if it's a very anti-white regime, they would see secession as insurrection, and they would come for you. So, and anyway, secession is one possible solution in the future. But before that can even be on the table, whites need to come together. So this is what the Go Free method that we follow in this community is aimed to do, is to bring whites together as a people. Because before we do that, no possible solution can work. Return to the land, for instance, is a good way to temporarily deploy out of dangerous environments, but it's not a permanent solution because the regime still has a monopoly on violence, and they can at any point change the laws as they want and come after you. So I'm not saying don't go there. It is, but it's not a permanent solution at this point. And if it were to become a permanent solution, it will only be a solution if we have a significant amount of white people who came together as people. Then the other thing that I want to remark on, what you described is what we call white erasure. So white erasure is not only demographics or hiring or admissions, it's also the white erasure of our norms and standards. It's the degradation and replacement of um, Western norms and cultural artifacts with non-white norms and culture. And what you were seeing is as non-whites come into a white environment, initially they start with what we call numerical diffidence, where they simulate being white out of fear of retaliation from the host culture. But as they increase in numbers, at some point they gain numerical courage. And at that point, they no longer fear retaliation from the host culture, and they will start to express their norms and their culture. And in England, we're seeing that where Muslims will stop white girls on the street and attack them for the way they dress, for instance. And in your area, and this white erasure of norms, you can see it not only in the littering, things like that's that obvious, but the white erasure of our norms of civility. For instance, um, that that horrible case where people stood around while a white woman was burning alive. This is this is this is white erasure of your norms of civility, because when we had Western civilization, no one would allow that to happen. Someone will intervene, and they will stop that fire and help that person. Um, by spirit.
I just wanted to say that so here we have like in Minneapolis where I live, where these Somalis, like one of their immigrants recently raped a 12-year-old girl, and he was convicted in court in Minnesota for that. And their largest community organization, I forget what it's called, but it's their largest nonprofit Somali community organization. They wrote a letter to the judge and the prosecutor saying, this guy doesn't understand the cultural norms and, you know, give him a lenient sentence. So, like, these people are coming in here and telling us that we should go soft on raping a 12-year-old girl. Like, this is what we're living with right now. And, you know, I get what you're saying. Like, this, like, these solutions aren't, you know, permanent, but, you know, land covenants, getting, you know, the Supreme Court, unfortunately, Clarence Thomas, as good as he is, he's still black, and he's probably not going to overturn Shelley v. Kramer, which was the Supreme Court case that said that state courts can't enforce land covenants because that's tantamount to the state depriving people of civil rights. But, you know, I don't think it's outside of possibility for that to be reinterpreted, for it to say, well, no, it's not. Like, white people can have their own communities, and that's not, you know, that's not enforcing racial supremacy or anything. It's just separation. Like, I think that it's possible that we could get the court to agree to that. Whether or not the people sitting on the court right now would. Amy Coney Barrett is squishy. You know, like I said, Thomas is black. I don't know if we could get that, but that would be like a goal that we should pressure for. That that should be like, if we're thinking pragmatically about what we can do now, what we can do in this instance, in this moment in time, with these events and these circumstances, I think that would be like a viable avenue to go down. What does everyone else think?
So what you were mentioning about the rape, this is a good example where um, the norms of Western norms are not universal. Norms like consent for sex or objecting to molesting are not universal norms. Um, we created these norms for us because we need them to stay healthy. So part of the strategy to recapture our destiny is to change the conversation, because currently anti-whites manipulate us into a conversation where they frame our victimization as well-being for other people or as retributive justice. And what we do is we change it around. We focus the conversation on our well-being, and then they are put in the immoral position. Now, in the case of the Somali, um, the way you talk about it is important, because um, our position is that these are our norms, and they need to comport to our norms, because um, we created these norms for us. This is our Western norms. If you come into Western civilization, you need to comport to our Western norms, and we're not going to allow you to wide erase that. And this is a moral position to have. We are protecting our norms that we need to stay healthy. So we don't care that um, you you because when I say consent for sex, I mean um, if we give the female the decision to have sex or not. If men take the decision, we call it rape, and when we had Western civilization, we killed him. But now these people come from other cultures, and they want, and that's not their norm. I mean, in Muslim cultures, boy rape is a norm. It's a norm in their culture, and that's incompatible with white people, incompatible with Western norms. Um, so, as far as concrete solutions, what we are doing is um, we are introducing a language and a way to talk about our victimization that allows us to defend against all the different ways to victimize us that you named a lot of them there. And in that way, if you think about the judges in the Supreme Court, the judges that make the decision, basically everyone in a position of power, they make their decisions in a moral framework, and that moral framework at the moment is the anti-white morality. And this is why so many decisions swing anti-white. It's because of the social morality, and because people don't know how to. You may have someone who cares about the well-being of white people, but they don't know how to defend us. We had a case where one of someone in our community, he went to the gym and they changed the posters in the gym, and the posters were all non-white males and white females. And he went to the marketing um, person. It was a white female, and he said, "Look, this is an attack on the white nuclear family. It happens everywhere on every skin of my life, and this is anti-white." And the marketing um, woman, she went and she changed it. And I think what happened there was because if she was anti-white, she would have just ignored his complaint. But I think what happened there was she wanted to do it, but she needed someone to complain in a way that she can go to a boss and say, "Look, our customers are telling me this," and um, and the argument that she gives is a moral argument. If the customer came and he said, "Look, Hitler would have hated this," then it wouldn't have worked because the customer would be in the immoral position. But because he framed it in a way where the well-being of white people was the focus, there was really no moral argument against it. But that's an example. But um, I invite you to go to our streams. We have tomorrow. We have a stream. Jason Kierner, his YouTube channel is No White Guilt. So I invite you to come and learn what we do, because let me tell you, we this is a method that works everywhere. It works. It works at my place of work. It works at the Christmas dinner. It works with random white people in the street. And this is how we change the world, one person at a time.
It
Let's
looks
go
like
to Ardent.
Ardent. It looks like Ardent Party wants to say something. I
Yes,
might
I'm
want to
fully
hear what
aware of that.
he has to say.
Yes, Eric, I'll give you the mic if you request it, but otherwise, please keep it muted. Thanks. Ardent Party?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond actually to Eric. I tend to be a little bit, because I'm not particularly legally educated, I tend to be a little bit creative in my interpretation of legal issues. But I think there may be a case to be made for the, I guess you guys are calling it land covenants, the sort of thing that Orval is doing, where, or the Return to the Land guys are doing, where you kind of have a, I forget exactly how it's labeled, but it's essentially an intentionally populated community. And I think there should be something in immigration law that should allow you to have that. not to mention a constitutional challenge for freedom of association. The same way that you have the right to freedom from religion, you would then have the ability to challenge for a right to not associate with people you choose not to. And to me, I mean, it seems to me that it's almost certainly part of our biospirit that we reserve the right to choose who we associate with, whether in terms of personally or in a neighborhood. And I don't think it's right that a federal government should be able to mandate, no, you have to let these people live here. It's I understand it's an extremely complicated issue, and I'm probably very poorly educated on it, but that's just my take.
Eric?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to that. That's very on par with, what I'm thinking. So, like, the land covenants is like basically saying, like for right now, like let's say the Twin Cities where I live, if we could get that, the Supreme Court to recognize that again, it was something that was recognized for a very long time, then we could start new communities. Like, it probably wouldn't apply to old communities. It wouldn't apply to suburbs and cities and municipalities that already exist. But we can take empty land and we can start building developments. And then as we build those new homes, townhomes, apartments, whatever we build, we can say, no, you can't sell this to anybody who's not white. And that's just what we want. And that's what we're doing. And we have a right to it. And then once we do that, we can have our own schools and we can have our own, grocery stores and our own, fire departments and police departments and everything that we want. And we can separate ourselves. And I realize that it's not a permanent solution, but it's pragmatic. It's something that is in the realm of the possible. It's something that we can do. And it's something that I think we should do. And you know what? I'm not even opposed to, helping out, Black and brown communities, or doing what we can to try to make them live better or help them. I just don't want to live around them. And I think a lot of people that I know agree with me on that. I just think this is something that's a pragmatic solution that, could be viable going forward.
So we have quite a strong position on helping non-white communities, and this is that if you are going to tax white taxpayers and then use that money to help non-white communities, that is by definition anti-white. So we don't. Now, of course, in a multiracial society, if you provide services, you provide to all of the races. But I'm talking now about all these initiatives where they specifically target non-whites, and that will absolutely not be allowed when we recapture our destiny, because that will be by definition anti-white. And this is how powerful it is when you center the well-being of white people, because you can it works. You can defend against the welfare state. You can defend um, against all the attacks that are currently succeeding against our people, because they don't know how to defend against it. But let's I did put um, another thing in the jumbotron far left, and this is just it was interesting to me that it was 9/11 a few days ago, and here here we have a pilot that let me just check, what did he say? He said something about Charlie. He said, well, hey Charlie, sorry you got shot in your fat forehead. It was just the cost of liberty. Thoughts and prayers. So to think that this is a pilot, and remember the context that I started this discussion with was the fact that we are in a similar situation that we were in after 9/11, where Bush had 90% approval, he could do almost anything. And then a lot of things changed, and not for the better. And we are in a similar situation now. So hopefully we will be able to steer things in a better direction. But go back and think about 2002, 2001, how much changed, because there would not have been a single pilot that was even close to what this disgusting anti-white is saying. And it's even worse that the fact that white male pilots are under attack at the moment. They are being white erased. Airlines are specifically targeting them for white erasure, for getting rid of them. And here we have this pilot, and he's glad that Charlie Kirk, who is one of the few people who resists this kind of victimization of white people, he thinks he should be killed, he should be murdered. So it was just it was a sign of the times, and it's horrible to think that in just 2 decades we are in a totally different world. By spirit.
Yeah, I saw that one today, and that's one of the ones I actually replied to the American Airlines, because the last few days I've been doing this of when the major influencers post things like this, I do a sub post to it, so that we're putting pressure on these corporations to fire people, because these people need to be held accountable and punished for what they're doing. It's just disgusting anti-whiteism, and it's actually I'm very heartened at how many people are doing this and how many accounts are focusing on this. I think it's a very good way for people to use the energy that they have right now and to accomplish something for good. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want a nurse who holds this kind of a viewpoint. I don't want a doctor who holds this kind of a viewpoint. I don't want someone preparing my food who has this viewpoint. These people are dangerous, and they I wouldn't put it past a stewardess who had a viewpoint like this to poison the food or the drink that they brought you. So I applaud that this is going on, and that this is a trend that we're seeing.
By spirit, I'm so glad you brought that image to me, because you look at this Tyler character, and he looks like such a good boy. He's such a good boy. But think about the fact that this is the man behind the mask. This is every Antifa scum, street scum, if you pull down the mask. This Tyler character, he would take a brick and bash your head till the brains come out. And it's hard to imagine that, but this is that man. He's that guy, and there are many of them. I think, and the other thing, the other image that I saw was that George character who debated Charlie Kirk in Oxford Union. And after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, he tweeted, "Wow, that was, he basically celebrated the murder of Charlie Kirk." And I realized that many of these anti-whites, they will um, they will engage in discussion only because they don't have a consequence-free way to murder you. That's the only way they engage in discourse. So I'm with Matt Walsh that we have no common ground with these people. if they signal that they are in that camp, there's nothing to talk about anymore. They must just be destroyed. They must lose their job. They must lose their home. They must beg for scraps from those that they despise. And this is the only, either that or they go to prison. Eric.
Yeah, so like I'm a huge nerd about the United States. I know all about the regions, all about the history, how each state become a state, all the presidents, Congress, everything like that. And like when I look at Utah and like I understand what's going on there, that it's like we're in a battle period right now because the cultural hegemony of the left is finally in question. Like 2020 was like the peak, like George Floyd period. That was like the peak of woke. And now, like, we've gotten over that to where people on the left are thinking they can celebrate Charlie Kirk's death on their LinkedIn out in the open, and then they're getting fired for it, and they're shocked, and they're backtracking, and they're saying the shooter is a groiper, and like, but what's going on like in Utah is like those outside forces, those urban Democrats and liberals and socialists and leftists and like institutions like colleges and governments, like they're brainwashing kids, and like Mormons who before, like, you know, even like pre 2000, even pre like the year 2000, like in the 90s and stuff, like these kids didn't have access to this kind of ideology. Like, so we have people in the Mormon community going missing and committing suicide and all sorts of things because there's that conflict there. There's that conflict between like the Mormon, like fundamentalist view of social and political matters with like the outside, like the leftist, the urbanism, like the cities, the, you know, the colleges, the institutions, like there's that conflict. And that's what we're seeing with Tyler Robinson, frankly. Like, he is a poster boy for that. He is the kid who rebelled against his parents. He got this ideology from the internet and external sources, and he, you know, chose to act on it. And so like we're at like a precipice right now where like those two things are in such conflict that it's creating like a destabilization. But I think it's an opportunity for white people to unite. Like, you know, we have the urban white, like the last vestige of like the white male that supports leftism or votes Democrats is like San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, you know, maybe Los Angeles, New York City, a little bit of Chicago. Like that's the last vestige of it. And like all we need to do is get those men, those white men, to come over to our side. And like once we do that, I think that it'll be really hard for other groups to resist us, even if they really vehemently oppose us. I think it'll be hard for them to go against us. What does everyone else think?
So yes, our whole strategy is to take back the moral high ground. So what happened in Tyler's case? I think he was already in school. He was on Reddit. He was a gamer, and I think what happened was his parents um, did not lock down the internet. And I mean, the fact that he's on Reddit is already a huge problem. But the bigger problem is his parents did not um, inoculate him against anti-whiteism, did not give him a moral position. So when he goes out of the house, which he's doing if he's going on Reddit, he's going out of the house. He's going out of the protection of his parents, and he is presented with these ideas on the internet. And the dominant narrative in society today is the anti-white narrative, and in that narrative white people are uniquely evil, and they don't have to say it explicitly. They say it implicitly by, for instance, every Hollywood movie, the villain has blue eyes. And the third time a boy sees a story where the evil one is the white boy, he's making that connections, even though he's not realizing he's making those connections. And what the way you inoculate your child is you teach him to recognize the anti-white narrative. You teach him to recognize white erasure. Um, and then what happens is every time he encounters the anti-white narrative or white erasure in the wild, it will reinforce instead of subvert. And what happened to Tyler was didn't have an answer when he was presented with these ideas that whites did slavery, whites were bad here, whites did that bad thing, whites oppressed here. He didn't have an answer, and then he accepted their morality, and then he looked back at his parents with this new lens of the anti-white morality, and he saw the villain in the anti-white narrative. He saw evil, and then he decided to and of course not only his parents, he saw his people as evil, and that is what made him decide to make war on not only his people but his own essence, because he was a white male. um, and why did he opt out of the white nuclear family? It's because in the anti-white narrative, um, that's one way to atone um, for grievances that you were not responsible for, and because who wants to make the future full of white babies if white people are evil? So one of the ways is to choose a lifestyle that will be guaranteed that there's not going to be children, there's not going to be white babies. And so I mean, it's not necessarily this detailed what I'm telling, but more or less, he looked back at his own parents, his own people, and he saw evil. And he decided he wants none of that. And anyone like Charlie Kirk, a lot of the positions of Charlie Kirk was because Charlie Kirk defended our Western norms and values. And whenever he did that, um, anti-whites saw that as someone who cared about white people. And when you care about white people, implicitly it means you're evil. Once you accept the anti-white morality. Now, I'm not saying Tyler would have been able to articulate this, but this is what he's going to feel, even if he's not going to be able to say it. He's going to feel we are evil, and he's going to feel that Charlie Kirk wants to harm non-whites, wants to harm homosexuals, wants to harm all the people that are in Tyler's view vulnerable, while the opposite is really true. Those people are all privileged. If you're a white male and you identify as trans, then the normal white erasure of admissions and hiring doesn't apply to you anymore. It's a way to escape anti-white victimization. So it's the carrot and the stick. um, it's the stick in the sense of if you're a straight white male, you are guilty and you need to atone. And it's a carrot that if you opt out of the white nuclear family, here is all the goodies that the anti-white regime is going to give to you. You're no longer going to suffer from anti-white discrimination at work. Suddenly you go to the top of the anti-white hierarchy. Um, so once again, do this is very important to inoculate your children, because you are not going to be able to keep them away from the anti-white narrative all the time. They are going to at some point um, get in contact with that. I think one thing that you can do is to extend that point in as long as possible, um, because I mean, when children are very young, it's harder to explain things to them. So at least early teens, maybe But anyway, I'm starting to ramble now. And I see Eric dropped out. I see his connection is in and out. Okay, let me check. All right, so this is that, and so probably this pilot is going to. A lot of people messaged American Air, so it's hopefully not going to go well for him. I would like to see him fired, even if they put a black female in his place. He needs to go. And Boy Spirit.
Yeah, another thing about that I saw yesterday was um, a way to get these people fired is through OSHA. So that's a government entity here in the United States where you can complain about your workplace environment and conditions, and it supersedes the HR department, it supersedes your employer's wishes. And so if you make a complaint that you have a unsafe work environment, or that this person is creating an unsafe environment for people to work in, or for people to um, do business in, or whatever, then OSHA will investigate it and can require the person to be fired because they are creating an unsafe work environment. So that's another angle that people are using to get these people fired from their jobs, which I think we are all in agreement that is a good thing. And I just wanted to mention that. I also I see Eric left, but I just wanted to say everything that Eric was presenting is stuff that we have looked at, seen, been over many times. It's failed strategies, and as more and more nodes of power are taken over by anti-whites, it's not going to matter whether you got a ruling from the Supreme Court, or you got a, a law passed with your local government or whatever. Everything's going to be white erased. So the focus needs to be on ending anti-whiteism, stopping white erasure, because any little dam that you put in place in the meantime is just going to be swept away. And that's just we keep seeing it over and over and over. And the example that Eric was using, which is how they're changing the suburbs into having to have multiple unit buildings. Well, that's an example of white erasure, and it wasn't like that before, was it? Well, do you think that you're going to get a law passed that's going to stay there forever and ever, and be some kind of thing that's never going to be abolished? Is ridiculous. The anti-whites will vote out the entire Constitution. They will vote out the entire court system. They will vote out anything that they see as standing in their way of accomplishing their destruction of Western civilization. So I just wanted to put that out there, that we've been there, done that, and we're doing something else here.
Thanks, Boy Spirit. Yes, we've seen a history of the anti-white regime never letting their own laws choke them out, and when they have to, they create new laws. And often they don't even need to, because the judges just interpret the laws in a way where justice is never blind; it's always anti-white. Um, I'm going to start winding down. So I'm going round robin. Let's go to Blue Flame. Final thoughts.
Yeah. I suppose at the end of the day, like the conclusion is always the same. If well, it's not even an if. We must reach out into the world and get people to comprehend that anti-whiteism will come after all of us. That actually includes the non-whites who want to genuinely live in a Western environment or want their countries positively influenced by us, who also have a who should actually show a bit more appreciation then and come to our defense too. Not holding my breath, but if they have an inkling of a sight towards the future, they have every reason to intervene in regards to anti-whiteism as well. Because at the end of the day, when the anti-white wins, everyone loses, and that is evidenced in all the places that have been 90% plus white erased. As we already know, there are such locations on the planet. Um, so yeah, and you can't run away from it. That is not a thing. You cannot you cannot simply presume that you follow this or this religion or that political idea or this little project and that is going to be the be all and end all. That is absolute cope. It has no place on a mature in a mature mind. And yeah, the solution is, it may be one of the more tougher ones, but it is the only way forward, which is sort of facing yourself. Like, how have you been exposed to the mimetic pathogens that have been instilled within you, so you end up fighting yourself, and by extent, your own people. And facing that, confronting it, finding the mimetic curatives for it, which again the white well-being community provides. Um, and then do your own work, and once you've settled in that, when you've come far enough, healed your mind enough, that you start reaching out into the world and see to it that as many as possible out there follow the same path in their own way. That is the only solution at the end of the day, and the world is going to be the world. Nonetheless, we all have a part to play in it, and from many drops of rain, a great river can come. And with that said, gonna bid you all a good day or good evening. Enjoy your meal or whatever it is that you're gonna do. And yeah, white well-being is the answer. It really is. Anything else has already been tried. Simple as. All right. Bye for now, guys.
Okay, thanks, Blue Flame. Fire Spirit.
Yeah, for just a final thought, I did want to go a little bit back to what you were talking about with Matt Walsh and Charlie Kirk and the Turning Point entity, and how um, Ben Shapiro appears to have taken it over already. I found that rather interesting that he jumped on that instantly within 24 hours. And it seemed to me that this is it's the control of the what is perceived to be the right, what we are given to be as the right, um, and they want it to be controlled opposition. So Ben Shapiro is Control Opposition Inc. when it comes to the internet, and So just to see him snarfle that up in 2 seconds, I wasn't surprised. And yes, it will be more and more them telling their content creators and anyone affiliated with them that they cannot use our lexicon, and that they must push Little Nicky, and that is the dynamic that they are going to keep pushing. So I wanted to thank you for bringing that up, Hans. I thought it was a very important point, and I'm sorry that it got derailed by what Eric was talking about, because I thought it was very interesting. So thank you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, Buzz. But yes, I think it's ominous, the fact that Matt Walsh gaslights Nikki, but still refuses to use our terms. I mean, I haven't given up hope. So yes, I still think that Matt Walsh he cares about our people, and he's reachable. So I think he's one of the most positive content creators out there. Major big content creators. Okay, Eindelen.
Well, I appreciate the conversation today, and I thought you guys, even though it kind of derailed the conversation, you guys did really good responding to the questions from a newcomer. So, and I know people come here too, and it just seems like the newcomers always get so impatient trying to get answers for questions that just have complex solutions. It's just people. I mean, white people more than anybody else hate the idea of stuff like white nationalism. And I know the idea of these breakaway communities with Arvel and everything is really attractive to people nowadays. And I guess because people know deep down that something beautiful can come from just us through blood and soil, I guess, if that's how they want to look at it. But none of these solutions are ever going to work until we have a people. And that's just the way it is. So I don't know. Uh, I get it though. People come here and they just don't know where to begin. So it's okay. But thanks again, guys, and I love you. I'll see you next time.
Yes, thanks, Andelin. I think it's because we are going. I think it's part of our instinct that we immediately go into problem-solving mode. And then we solve the problem that's before our eyes. But I think it's not a difficult concept to grasp that once you change the underlying morality of society, all your solutions will become easier. Now, from our point of view, of course, none of those solutions are even possible without changing the morality first. But anyone can see that if you change the morality, your whatever solution you have that you think will work, you will know that that will now become easier. And I think that's easy to grasp. And all that we're saying is, let's do that first. And if you have some pet project that you are married to, you can keep your pet project. Just know that if you go on in the white wellbeing community, your pet project will become more viable with every white person we bring over to our side. What? So I put a I put a video of a whale coming out of the water. So it's just a nice video, but there's also a metaphor there, and that is um, we are not only doing this for us. We, if it, white people, anti-whiteism, um, it's not only we who benefit from ending anti-whiteism. If the West falls, every living thing is going to feel it. That whale is not there because the Chinese objected to its extinction. That whale is there because white people wanted him to be there. So that's my last idea, thought, is that we're fighting for life on Earth, and it's us white people that are between the biodiversity and death. So that's it for this space. Thank you, everyone. I will now do the outro. This has been the Saturday edition of the Shade Tree White Wellbeing NWG space. We meet here daily at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on X. We practice the Go Free lexicon and concepts as developed by Jason Kiernan, Mr. No White Guilt himself. You can find him here on X as No White Guilt NWG, elsewhere as simply No White Guilt, and on the web at nowhiteguilt.org. I want to thank each and every one of the speakers and all of you who showed up to listen. You all make this space possible by bringing your diverse skills and intelligence here for all of us to share. Without all of your participation as speakers or listeners, it would just be my handsome self. Thanks again. I truly appreciate you all. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening. I love you all, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Are you noticing changes in our country you find troubling? Do you feel unsafe and at a loss to remedy these fundamental shifts? Have you found the book Go Free by Jason Kuna? The Go Free method provides excellent meme curatives and specific language skills to overcome the anti-white psychological warfare being waged against us across the West. Go Free, a guide to aligning with the archetype of Western kind by Jason Kuna, available on Amazon.
Our children are priceless, and we would do anything to protect them. So why aren't you using Go Free to protect them from the most harmful ideas? Decades in the making, Go Free is a simple yet brilliant practice designed to free us from destructive socio-political ideas. As words are the tools with which we think, Go Free promotes precise, simple, and targeted language to counteract psychological warfare. When you go free of the system's control over your word choice, you liberate your thinking. As you grow, you can empower others. And the most important thing you can do is inoculate our children against the ideas that are meant to harm them.